What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Brian. Today we're going to go over the Week 10 games, starting with the Michigan Purdue game, obviously, and how that kind of went. So starting off, Michigan won. So be thankful for that because this game had no business being as close as it did. Um, so defensively wise, normally you hold the team to 16 points. You think you're good. 16 points. Wow, not great, but it's really only 2 touchdowns with extra point either side or, whatever numerical combination you get. The problem was not Michigan's defense in this case. 16 points was more than enough, obviously, to win. Um, Purdue's passing yards are fine. 138, it's not great, not awful. But Bryce Underwood, 13 and 22, 145, still not good numbers. Not we that number he needs to be exceeding 200, in my opinion. Now, this is my opinion. This is just me as an outsider looking at the game. Um, One interception, whatever. That's not the worst ever. But no passing touchdowns. 145 yards, and you got, for example, you got one 37-yard pass. That's a chunk of those yards. So that means you had basically 12 completions for, what is that, 107 yards. Mm, that's not good. We need better than that. We absolutely need better than that. That is not gonna beat the Ohio States of this world. And obviously that is the end all be all for Michigan this year. I mean, they'll get into a bowl game, obviously, but if they want to beat Ohio State, they're gonna have to play so much better offensively. And it starts right there with this number. And completion attempts, okay, whatever. You want a high completion rate, but yards, you need to be able to prove that you can beat teams through the air. Because on the flip side, these numbers right here are amazing. 253 net yards. Jordan Marshall just blew the doors off. He is amazing. Him and Justice Haynes. Obviously, Justice Haynes is out because with the injury. I believe he had foot surgeries this week, I believe, or past couple days. But Jordan Marshall did amazing, fantastic. Nope, nobody's happier than me that he did this good. However, what happens when you're asking this guy to carry the ball 25 times? He's getting what happens then? Like that's a lot to put on one dude, and there is nobody else who's running it, with that kind of efficiency. Uh, Bryce Underwood, 7 for 50 yards, that's great. But, he's also your quarterback. You don't want him taking the hits that a running back is physically designed to take. So I get that, we have a great running game and nobody's happier than me. Like I said, nobody's happier than me that we're running this well, but we cannot have a repeat of last year. We just can't. We have to score more than 21 points. Now, if you watched my previous video, you'll know that I said Michigan would beat them comfortably by 3 touchdowns. Obviously, I was wrong. Clearly, guilty. I was wrong. Um, I think I overestimated. I feel like myself and other Michigan fans are overestimating how much trust Sean Moore has in Bryce Underwood at this point. I would have thought by now they'd be opening up the playbook, giving him an opportunity to throw the ball, but he hasn't shown the ability to put touch on his passes. He's still throwing the ball, not passing the ball. And there is a difference, believe it or not. So, um, while I am happy that Michigan won, I'm happy to see Jordan Marshall having an amazing game. It's good to see him doing this because this is the Jordan Marshall we saw against Alabama last year and towards the end of the season. This cannot be our go-to, like, one and done offensive weapon, because we saw what happens when all you do is run, 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 and somebody else is better than you at stopping it. That makes you one-dimensional. And if you can't reliably throw the ball, then you're just gonna have a bunch of 3 and outs, and then your defense gets tired. And then when your defense is tired, you start giving up big plays, more points, et cetera, so on and so forth. Take that down the obvious, path to its natural conclusion. Uh, we only let up 130 yards. I'm not worried. Defensively, we did fine. 16 points is realistically should have been more than enough to win the game. Now, my main concern has now become, and I believe I've said this before, is our receivers. What are we doing? Our tight ends are once again essentially our best receivers. You got 3 receptions for 58 yards, 4 receptions, 1, 2, 1. What are we doing? For okay, 12 and 16 yards, that's fine. 5 yards, 4 yards, 1 for 4 yards, 1 for Donovan McCulley has been an amazing receiver here. What are we doing throwing him the ball once? Now, I don't know how many targets he has, so can't that information is not right here, but 13, he said he 13 of 22, so what was that 4, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, yeah. So you chose the ball, throw the ball 22 times, you hit 13 completions, but no way are you hitting your best receiver or one who's proven to be the best at this point, 1 for 5 yards. What are we doing here? Really? Why? We should Sean Moore should be saying, hey, trust your receivers. Pass them the ball. And don't be afraid to make mistakes. Bryce Underwood is essentially an 18-year-old freshman. Like, he is playing, when you watch him, he looks like he's scared to make mistakes. And I'm at that, yeah, I get there's pressure, because he's like basically the best recruit Michigan's ever had. I get that, you know, and I understand there's a lot of pressure with that, but let him throw, like, teach him how to pass the ball, put some touch on it, throw some of those passes that he is more than capable of making. But 1 for 4, 1 for 5, 1 for 12, 2 for 16. What are we doing here? Come on. Now, 3 for 58 is really good, but we should be seeing multiple people target. We should see these guys with, multiple, you know, there shouldn't be a 1. There should be like a 3, 4, 3, 4. Spread the ball around. You have resources. Now, to be fair, on the flip side of these, some of these receivers just cannot get their hands on the ball. Like Samaj Morgan, zeros. There's no way he was just targeted. He was not targeted. But, yeah, we got to do better in the passing game. This will be a downfall right here. This nonsense, our passing game will be our downfall. We cannot. The magic was there last year with Khalil Mullins and how he just basically hulked out half the season. That magic will eventually run out. It already ran out against USC. Oklahoma's, a little different, but USC showed us that this is where things are going to go south if we can't run the ball better. So, yeah, this is problematic. I see this being really a downfall the rest of the year. Do I hope I'm wrong? Of course I do. But this really needs to change. These numbers need to be a lot bigger. 145 yards over however many people there are. You gotta spread the wealth around, and on the other side, receivers need to make plays. Because if they're not, then that falls on them. So let's not put everything on Bryce Underwood here and the coach. Receivers need to be making the plays too, so that's fair. But this, I feel, is going to be where our problems are, because these numbers, fantastic. 7.4 average, 6. Even Bryce Underwood 6.3. That's amazing. That's good. But this is not. We need to be putting up at least 200 plus yards of air, you know, yards through the air, yak, yards after catch, whatever it needs to be, that needs to be higher because that's where our problem is going to be. Because you take that away, we become one dimensional. They load the box, and that's it. So that was my concern, a big concern watching that game. Defensively, though, Michigan did fine. Sacks, tackle for the yard, the whole. How many sacks do we have? 3 sacks. We did fine. Solo tackles. Our linebackers, our guys, defensively, Michigan is fine. 16. I'm not particularly worried about giving up 16 points, even though I thought there'd be less. It was enough. Our defense made that game, a win for us, basically. While for whatever reason our offense is struggling, as I've just literally spent the last I don't know how many minutes documenting, our defense is fine. I love our defense. These guys are showing up every game. Even when we lose, it's we made the other team be better. We force the other team to make plays. That's what a good defense does. It forces the other team to make exceptional plays. So it doesn't give them the easy yards. So that's good. I'm really I'm happy with our defense. Obviously, there's things they could do better. Yeah, you gave us 16 points, but that's for the coaches to handle. And defensively, they're doing everything they can to keep us in games. So kudos to them. So they were the heroes of the day, in many respects. Outside of Jordan Marshall running, from here to Hawaii. Um, Now on to my predictions for last week. Oh man, these are an adventure at this point. James Mann said, "Yeah, they beat Texas State." Here's a cool story for the kind of the comeback kid of the year, Kennesaw State. Last year they were like 2-10 or whatever. To the best of my knowledge, they're already bowl eligible. So hey, congratulations to those guys. That's really awesome to see Kennesaw State, pushing themselves up through the ranks. I believe that's the one I'm thinking of. Jacksonville State beat Middle Tennessee. Not particularly surprising. A couple of years ago, Jacksonville State upset Auburn, if I remember correctly, but that was maybe almost 10 years ago now. Florida International is in. Yeah, they're hurting. They're losing to a team that just joined the Division One ranks. So when that's happening, you may need to rethink some stuff. Oh, excuse me. Um, Utah, or sorry, Texas San Antonio beat Tulane. Kind of disappointed with Tulane. Um, I know they're capable of better, but just having a down year. Coastal Carolina, Marshall. Um, yeah, Coastal Carolina. Uh, Kind of ever. I remember it was a couple years ago. They just had they were exceeding expectations. They came out of nowhere. They're up and down this year, so we'll see what happens there. But I don't. I think they'll probably make one of those lower end bowl games. Memphis did beat Rice, as I thought. Rice is just not much, but Memphis is coming back. I think they're determined to not have a disappointing season after their loss a couple weeks ago. North Carolina beat Syracuse. I was wrong about this, but I'm not sure if that says more about Syracuse or North Carolina at this point. Yeah, so we'll see what happens there. Louisiana Tech did beat Sam Houston pretty convincingly. Uh, I got a chance to watch part of the Ohio State Penn State game. Ohio State looks like the truth. It was close for about a third of the game, and then Ohio State's defense basically said, "No more scoring for you," and that was it. So Penn State, they came out, they tried, they showed up. That score may not really indicate how close the game was because offensively, Penn State really couldn't do much, but they showed up. They played like they wanted to be there. So I know the score really doesn't say that, but they did. So kudos to them for at least showing up. Yeah, Indiana beat the brakes off of Maryland. Oof, goodness. Georgia beat Florida. Yeah, that Florida just got outmatched, but they kept it close. Obviously, it's a close game still, closer than it had to be. I think I called that correctly. I definitely called Indiana Maryland correctly. Ole Miss beat South Carolina. Yeah, that I believe I called that correct, and Ole Miss is looking they're looking real. So, hey, it's awesome. Lane Kiffin is hopefully he gets doesn't have one of those, end of season disappointment games that they do tend to have. So, if they can keep going, man, that's Ole Miss is likely I believe they'll be in the SEC championship if I remember correctly. We'll see. I don't know if they do have one loss, I think, to Alabama, if I remember correct. So, that may keep them out, but we'll see. Unfortunately, Georgia Tech did lose to North Carolina State. Yeah, you can't give up 48 points and expect to win. I mean, that's that's a tough ask. But kind of disappointed with that. I was hoping, the comeback kid, Georgia Tech, but it is what it is. So, but hopefully Georgia Tech can come back and continue their winning ways. But North Carolina State has been known to upset teams before, so I'm not incredibly surprised. Uh, this game I did get wrong. Texas Vandy. I thought Vanderbilt was going to run them out of the stadium. Really, I was wrong, but I was more surprised by Texas because Vandy did, still put up 31 points, but I was more that Texas. If that Texas shows up, they're going to win a lot more games. But that's the problem. That's not the Texas that always shows up. We Of course, everybody wants competitive teams. So if the competitive Texas shows up and wins games or keeps things going, that's good for the sport. But when you don't know who's going to show up, whether it's going to be the Texas that actually flops or the one that you know beats a top 10 team. So I think that's what Coach Sarkisian is going to really have to figure out what his team is. Are they good or are they good sometimes or are they good when they feel like it? So we'll see what happens further. But hey, a win's a win. So take that for what it is. I definitely called this one wrong. This Miami Southern Methodist. Holy smokes. And Carson Beck essentially threw his team under the bus afterwards. So, um, uh, disaster class in Miami coming up. Who knows? Because that's two losses to teams they definitely should have been beating. So see what happens there. But I did not see that coming. That's for sure. Notre Dame, Boston College. Yeah, Notre Dame won. Nothing more to say about that. That deficit should have been bigger, but you know, 2 touchdowns plus is plenty. Texas Tech beat Kansas State. Yep, that's perfectly in line with what Texas Tech is capable of. They're good this year, and I don't see them losing many games the rest of the year. They may drop one, but not likely even then. Oklahoma, Tennessee. Yes, this is exactly what I was hoping for. Tennessee played hard. Let's not take anything away from them. They showed up, but I'm glad Oklahoma won for obvious reasons. But you know, that makes Michigan's loss to them look good. But yeah, it was a hard fought game. Both teams showed up. That was a good game. There's not much else to say about it. You know, there had to be a winner. So Virginia, California. Virginia showed up. And I believe that the first playoff bracket just came out today, I believe. I haven't had a chance to really deep dive into it, but Virginia, I believe, was on there. So who knows? Maybe Virginia could surprise people and actually make it to the playoffs this year. We'll see. Because Florida State, not happening. Louisville, Virginia Tech. Louisville, they're still on the outside looking in, but it's possible. But they did, they played solid enough to win. Cincinnati, Utah, yeah, like what are we doing here? I thought Cincinnati was gonna hold Utah, to reasonable points. No, Cincinnati just fell apart. Like what's going on here? Really disappointing. Obviously I already covered Michigan, Purdue. Michigan's gonna have to play a whole lot better if they want to win more games because Purdue is in a doghouse and yeah, played a lot hard. They were punching about 6 times above their weight with that one. But Michigan still won, so Yeah, already covered that. West Virginia beat Houston. Definitely got that wrong. West Virginia just came out guns blazing, and Houston really wasn't prepared for that. I don't think. West Virginia is having a really down year, and I guess they decided to show up for one. So hey, more power to them. Good for them. USC beat Nebraska. Dylan Rail is out for the season. So I think that really, when someone like that is, so important to your team is gone, as we've seen, NFL, any major sport, when the leader of your team goes out, it's really demoralizing. And I think that Nebraska's in for a really tough rest of the year. So, and USC is, hey, they're a respectable team. Nothing, they outside of beating Michigan, I obviously say it in part because of that, but USC is a respectable team, and I think, they're not as far behind other Big Ten teams and other teams in general as people might like to think their ranking would imply. So, good for them. Buffalo beat Bowling Green. Yeah, Maction. Cool story. I think I called that correctly, but not worried. UAB UConn. Kind of surprised that UConn put up that many points against UAB, but congrats to them. North Texas, not really surprised. When your quarterback put up 600 yards like a week or two prior against a better team or team, well, no, Charlotte's not definitely not better than Navy, but still, there's a good chance you're going to be able to beat teams like Navy and others who are not exactly the highest states of college football. So not really surprised by that result, but Navy still, showed up, so good for them. Rutgers, Illinois, once again, not surprised by this. Rutgers not doing so hot this year, so Illinois is still a good team, even though they're not ranked. They were ranked pretty earlier this year. Kind of had some bad losses, but not particularly surprised by that score. UCF Baylor, yeah, I believe I called that, but good on Baylor. Duke and Clemson. Now that game, I know I believe I got that wrong, but more to the point. So I've been kind of iffy on Dabo Swinney. Now I think his seat is getting hotter, but does Clemson keep him on? And I think this is where it's kind of a moment of discussion. Does Clemson keep him on to keep on bringing in recruits, or do they say, hey, all right, and do they give him another season to say, hey, this is a rebuilding or whatever you want to call it, like, hey, just a down year because this is not it. Like, they may not make a bowl game at this rate, and that's just it's Clemson. There's no way they view that as acceptable when this guy's been bringing teams to the national championship within not too long, not in the distant past. So I think while they will keep him on, I would imagine I think it's going to be harder to justify that if they keep losing games like this to teams they should be beating. Now, that's not to say Duke is a bad team. Uh, you put 46 points against a Division One opponent who is respectable. That's saying something. So, hey, congrats to them for showing up and beating Clemson. But realistically speaking, Clemson something needs to change in that program, and that may or may not include a coaching change in the future. So we'll see what happens there. Uh, hey, R&B Air Force, go Black Knights. It's awesome. The boys in the what do you call it? Boys in the green suiters got out there and did their thing. So all good for them. Arizona State beat Iowa State. Um, Not particularly surprising, but same time, Iowa State's kind of fumbling the bag in my opinion. So East Carolina and Temple. I really thought Temple was gonna beat them, but apparently I was wrong. New Mexico UNLV. I called that. However, I did not think that 40-35 would be the end result. That's a close game, a lot closer than I thought. Old Dominion beating ULM, kind of surprising. I didn't see Old Dominion beating up on them like that, but very cool. Um, Delaware Liberty, Make a Wish Michigan all over again, losing to Liberty. So Fresno and Boise State. Fresno, yeah, Boise State. What's going on, man? What is going on there? Eesh, that's um, Pittsburgh, Stanford. Yeah, Pittsburgh. I think I called that, but that's not saying much. Stanford's not doing so hot this year. Louisiana, South Alabama. Good for the Raging Cajuns pulling that out. Yeah, Minnesota beat Michigan State. Happy, yes. Hoping a Michigan team will win, yes. But in the end, good job, Minnesota. Well done. Western Kentucky, New Mexico State. Yep, that's you know two teams that were probably trying for shooting for a low end bowl game, more than likely. Mississippi State and Arkansas. That was just absolute slugfest. I'm not sure I knew. Yeah, I two. They just beat each other up, and basically the last person who had the ball won the game. So yeah, 38-35. Man, that's two teams just going at it. Western Michigan beating Central Michigan. Once again, Maction, you know, going at it so you can lose the best way possible. So, Oklahoma State, Kansas, yeah, everybody's beating out Oklahoma State this year, and it holds true even with Kansas. Oklahoma State's a disaster zone right now. Arizona State just absolutely annihilated Colorado. Like, I believe Colorado is letting the other guy, what's his, Juju, I believe his name is, take over the reins from Caden Salter, if I remember correctly. It's about time. Colorado's just bad, just bad. I don't know what it is. You can't. You try to defend, Coach Prime, but at the same time, you can't. There's only so much you can do when your teams are getting the doors blown off by 30 plus points. There's you can't make excuses for that after a while. So something needs to change there. Um, Wyoming. Oh, San Diego State beat Wyoming. I believe I called that the other way around, but yeah. All right, very cool. A very defensive game, Washington State, Oregon State. I thought Washington State was going to win that. Really, I really did. But Oregon State held them. Very defensive. Florida State absolutely blew the doors off Wake Forest. Moderately surprising, but they won. Kentucky, Auburn. Auburn, I believe, just fired Hugh Freeze as of a couple of days ago. So there's going to be a coaching change at Auburn, and who knows who they're going to bring in. But I would say that's maybe doesn't have the appeal of, say, Penn State, but I would say Auburn does have some appeal to someone who maybe is not ready for if you had to be like a tier job, tier A is like Penn State, Ohio State, et cetera. So I would say Auburn probably a mid B, a B tier. Maybe it's not Alabama, but it's certainly not a Kentucky. So I would say Auburn would be attractive for someone who maybe is not ready for the biggest of lights, but still is ready to build up that and get to that point and play those teams, at home and maybe prove that they were ready for that. So, yeah, I think it's an attractive place for someone ready to take that step. So we'll see who gets hired on there, and I'll update you all next week. Arkansas State, Troy. Hey, once again, I like the logo, so I called that for them. And Hawaii, San Jose State. I thought Hawaii would win this, but once again, that was a slugfest. So congrats to San Jose State. I believe that was it. So that was week 10. And I will go over, in theory, week 11 has already started. I've actually watched a bit of the Ohio and Miami game. Ohio, I believe, had a kick return that really kind of sealed it, if I remember correctly. And then, wow, Massachusetts got the doors blown off by Akron, but when 2 bad teams play each other, yeah, r UMass hasn't beaten anybody of note in however long it's been, so take that with a grain of salt. Anyways, thank you for watching. Um, Once again, you saw what I said about Michigan and where they need to improve, and then, you know, hopefully these next couple weeks show some improvement from them, and we get some more great football coming up. But yeah, hope you all have a great day. Thanks for watching. Take care. Peace.